The room was bathed in the soft amber glow of the bedside lamp, its light spilling gently across the walls, casting delicate shadows that danced with every flicker. Outside, the night was quiet, the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind the only sound that dared to disturb the stillness. But inside, my world had shrunk to just her, the way she fidgeted with the edge of the blanket, the slight curve of her lips when she thought no one was watching, the way her eyes seemed to search mine for something she couldn't quite name. She shifted closer, pulling the blanket around her shoulders, and finally, in a voice so tentative it could have been swallowed by the night, she asked, "Can I share your bed?" I felt my chest tighten in that instant, a strange mix of surprise and warmth flooding me. It wasn't just the question, it was the trust behind it, the quiet vulnerability that made my heart ache in the best possible way. She wasn't asking for comfort alone, she was asking to be seen, to be close, to be allowed into a space that was usually mine alone. I smiled, slow and deliberate, letting my gaze linger on her face. The faint curve of her lips, the sparkle of hesitation in her eyes, it all drew me in. Words came naturally, as if they had been waiting for this moment. "Only if you share my forever." Her eyes widened, reflecting the soft glow of the lamp, and for a heartbeat, I thought she might start to cry, tears of relief, of happiness, of the kind of emotion words can't capture. And then she laughed, a soft, melodic laugh that seemed to ripple through the room, warm and alive, lifting every invisible weight that had been between us. I reached out instinctively, brushing a stray strand of hair from her cheek, feeling the electricity of the touch linger. She leaned just a fraction closer, and I realized that what we shared in that small room, under the hum of quiet night, was more than proximity, it was a promise, an unspoken understanding that this night was the beginning of something neither of us wanted to end. Time seemed to slow, every sound outside, every shadow on the wall, faded into nothingness. There was only this moment, and in it, a fragile, beautiful certainty. Some words, when spoken with the right heart, could change everything. I held out my hand, hesitant for only a moment, and she took it, her fingers sliding into mine with a trust that made my chest swell. The warmth of her touch was immediate, grounding, like a spark bridging the distance that had existed between us for far too long. It wasn't just the hand-holding, it was a silent confession, a quiet acknowledgement that we were ready to cross a line into something deeper, something permanent. We eased onto the bed together, side by side, careful not to break the fragile rhythm of the moment. The blankets crumpled softly beneath us, the scent of fresh linens mingling with the faint trace of her perfume. The world outside the room seemed to pause. No wind, no distant car horns, no ticking clocks, just the two of us, suspended in a private bubble where only warmth and whispered promises existed. I brushed a loose strand of hair from her face, tucking it gently behind her ear. Her skin felt impossibly soft under my fingers, and she leaned into my touch as if she had been waiting for it all her life. "Forever," she murmured, the word trembling on her lips, tasting it like it was a fragile hope finally becoming real. I nodded, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead, the pressure of my lips carrying a promise I couldn't fully articulate in words but felt in every heartbeat. Her eyes met mine, wide and luminous, reflecting the faint glow of the lamp. I could see the flicker of uncertainty there, the hesitation of vulnerability, but also an unspoken yearning, a longing that mirrored my own. I whispered her name softly, letting the sound wrap around her like a warm embrace, and she let out a small laugh that was half relief, half delight, and wholly captivating. We lay there, close enough to feel each other's heartbeat, our legs brushing occasionally, a subtle warmth radiating between us. I felt her fingers trace idle patterns across my hand, and every touch sent shivers of awareness through me. In that quiet, our silence became a language of its own, gentle, steady, and infinitely intimate. Time seemed elastic, minutes stretched into eternity, and yet every second felt fleeting, like a secret we were meant to savor. I leaned closer, inhaling the scent of her hair, pressing a lingering kiss to the top of her hand. "You make everything feel right," I whispered, and she smiled, nuzzling her head against my shoulder, her fingers tightening around mine as if to say, "This is home, this is ours." We lay side by side, the warmth of our bodies just close enough to feel without words, letting the quiet of the night speak in a language only we understood. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, a soft accompaniment to the rhythm of our breathing. Inside, the room was still, almost sacred, as if it knew to hold its breath and let us exist in this fragile, perfect bubble. Her head rested lightly on my shoulder, and I instinctively draped my arm around her, drawing her closer. The simple weight of her against me was grounding, and yet it carried an intensity I hadn't anticipated. Each breath she took brushed against my chest, a reminder that this was no fleeting moment. This was the beginning of something enduring, something tender and unshakable. I watched the rise and fall of her chest, memorizing the gentle rhythm, the soft curves that seemed designed to fit perfectly against me. Her fingers twined with mine, and I felt a quiet thrill in that connection, a sense that the two of us together created something neither of us could have imagined alone. She let out a soft sigh, a sound almost lost in the stillness, but to me it was a symphony. "You make forever sound easy," she whispered, her voice low and intimate, as if sharing a secret meant only for us. I smiled, pressing my lips to the top of her head, feeling the warmth of her hair against my lips. "Love makes the impossible feel simple," I replied, letting my words linger in the quiet space between us. Minutes stretched into timelessness. We didn't speak, but our closeness spoke volumes. Every heartbeat, every gentle brush of her fingers against mine, every small shift of her body leaning into me was a conversation in itself. There was no need for declarations, no need for grand gestures. The small, unspoken gestures of touch, presence, and attention conveyed everything that words could not. She nestled closer, curling slightly against me, and I tightened my hold just enough to reassure her without suffocating. There was a gentle intimacy in that stillness, a connection deeper than passion, deeper than desire. This was a knowing, a comfort, a promise that we belonged together. And in that shared silence, I realized that love didn't always need fireworks or words. Sometimes, it was found in the quiet, in the simple act of holding someone and letting them hold you back. Knowing that in that stillness, forever had already begun. The room felt warmer somehow, as if the very walls had absorbed the quiet intimacy we'd shared and now pulsed with it. Her head still rested on my shoulder, her fingers laced with mine, and I could feel the rhythm of her heartbeat, steady yet fluttering, mirroring my own. The world outside, the noise, the obligations, the rush of life, didn't exist here. In this room, in this bed, time had slowed, letting every heartbeat and every breath stretch into eternity. She lifted her head slightly, her eyes meeting mine with a tenderness that made my heart ache. "Can we always do this?" she asked softly, almost afraid of the answer, almost afraid that something so fragile and perfect could ever break. "Always," I whispered, and the word felt heavier and more sacred than any vow I had ever made. It wasn't just a promise for tonight, it was a promise for every sunrise and every sleepless night after this one. I pressed my lips to hers in a gentle kiss, slow and lingering, letting the silence between us carry the weight of all unspoken promises. Her hands traced the lines of my face, as if committing every detail to memory. I felt her warmth radiate against me, not just physically but through the very core of my being. Every shiver, every brush of skin against skin, was a reaffirmation of something far greater than desire. It was connection, trust, and belonging. We pulled each other closer, the soft rustle of the blankets beneath us the only sound accompanying the quiet music of our hearts. "I want this, always," she murmured into my chest, and I held her tighter, feeling the truth of her words resonate with mine. "And I want you, every day, every night, for as long as forever allows." Her smile was small, yet it lit up the room brighter than the lamp ever could. There was a softness in her eyes, a vulnerability, and a joy that made every fear, every doubt, fade into nothingness. I brushed a gentle kiss along her temple, inhaling the faint scent of her hair, savoring the warmth of her body curled against mine. And then we simply held each other, letting the silence wrap around us like a cocoon. Outside, the night continued its quiet vigil, unaware of the love that had settled like a gentle flame inside these four walls. Sharing a bed had always been intimate, yes, but sharing a forever, that was something extraordinary, something eternal. And in that small, quiet room, we had found it. For the first time, I truly understood that forever didn't need grand declarations or dramatic moments. Sometimes, it was in a hand held, a forehead kissed, a whispered, always, and the simple, undeniable truth that two hearts had finally come home to each other.